deal where lots of people excited on social media like it's soccer.
I don't know who that is.
Well, it's 3 o'clock. I'm here on time. Can we start the meeting? If we would call Gloria the roll call.
Certainly. Mr. Eisbart?
Present.
Mr. Williams? Present. Mr. Seifert? Mr. Castleman?
Present.
Ms. Tucker? I am present. Mr. Moss and Ms. Shamina. So we have 5 out of 7.
5 present, 2 absent. Thank you so much. We have a quorum. I'll entertain a motion that we adopt the agenda as distributed.
So moved. Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by aye.
Aye.
And opposed by nay. All right, if no one objects, I'd like to group the minutes of the regular session of March 23rd, 23, the executive session of March 23rd, 23, and the approval of the claims of April 1st, 2023. May I have a motion to that effect?
So moved?
Thank you.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by aye.
Aye.
And opposed by nay. David, you're up for the financial
All
report.
right, thank you, Ben. A couple of things to mention today. First, on the spending, things are going very well, knock on wood, I don't want to jinx it, but thanks to the light winter we had, some savings are being developed in the landscaping line, which is where the snow removal is. Given an idea, we've had, I just marked the numbers on that. We've spent $219,000 so far this year on snow removal. For perspective, in 2022, it was $396,000 at this same time, and $405,000 in 2021. So, thank you, light wind, Jack Frost not coming.
It's
Yeah.
called global warming.
Yeah, exactly. So, but all the lines are spending within their benchmarks, no line to report at this point. So we're happy about that. As I put in the news and notes, the audit is going on as we speak. Crow LLC is doing the audit again for the State Board of Accounts. So far, everything seems to be going well. We're just in the process of sending them the information they need to perform their testing, and after they do their sampling, going back and, explaining any of the items on it. That will probably continue for at least another week and a half. I talked to the auditor in charge today. They're hoping to get a draft to us next week of the items that they need cleared up before we go into a more, preparation of the final draft or final reports and all. So far, so good. As I noted in there, House Bill 1499, that was one that I had mentioned in previous meetings that we're going to have some dramatic impacts on the caps as well as the maximum levy. That language has been removed from the budget bill, so we at least have dodged that bullet this year, and so we won't have to look at trying to deal with a fairly significant reduction in revenue streams. So we're happy about that. And then the final good news for us was we finally got things settled with the insurance companies regarding the Aboit roof. Yeah, I know, it's almost a year ago that derecho hit in June. And, but I can understand they're wanting to be thorough. The final cost on that is gonna be $914,000.
And how much of it's covered?
All but $10,000.
Good.
So that was our deductible, and they agreed it. Jake, our maintenance manager, you take my hat off to him because he fought long and hard for this, because they, of course, as insurance companies, they want to, try and reduce it, and he had our consultants, our people, that were proving these estimates are correct, these are what the market is doing. So they finally acquiesced, and Pete also, thanks for his help and all in helping guide that through also. So really, those are the main items to report today, but I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Question?
Yeah.
Do
do have an anticipated start and completion date for the roof?
Yes, yes. Actually, Kim and Tanya and Jake have been working on that. We're looking now at postponing the start of it until August. It is so close to summer learning program starting that we want to have use of the building, because unfortunately, when that starts, there's going to be periods where we will not have any use of the building. When those trusses have to come out and new ones go in, there'll be a period where we're hoping we can have it open for employees in there, but because so much of it is over like the meeting space and the restrooms, we can't have public in there at that time. So we felt it was best to put off the start of it until August, once the summer learning program's finished, and then they're looking at about a 6-week period from start to finish. So hopefully, no later than maybe by the end of September, we've got everything up and running and completed. Yeah.
Any other questions? I do have one on the audit.
Yeah.
This is the second year that the private sector, Crow in this case,
Yes.
is doing the audit.
Yes.
How does the costs compare?
Actually, it is identical because it's a fee, a set rate that the state assesses the entity. So we are paying the State Board of Account fee, not Crow fee. So they are contracting with Crow, and then the same rate that would be. So like last year's, ours was around 10,000. It would have been the same if the State Board of Account auditors had been in.
Got it. Thank you, that's helpful. Okay, let's move on to the approval. Oh, can I have a motion to accept the financial report as presented?
So moved.
Thank you,
Second.
Jeff. Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed by nay. Let's go to the claims.
All right, today's claims, I'll bring those around. They're a total of $456,991. The highest claim is, as always, system-wide electrical service at $54,000. Following that, our EBSCO for subscription services at $52,000. Those are the two highest claims. But, nothing else standing out on that.
Okay, we'll circulate it.
Yep, I'll bring it around, but we need approval on it.
Motion to approve the claims.
So moved.
Thank you,
Second.
Shannon. Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed by nay. Now we get to the meat of the meeting.
The meat of the meeting.
Integrated Library System Services.
Yes. As you are aware, a few months ago, we issued a request for proposal to see options for a new integrated library system. We did receive 3 proposals. We reviewed those. We invited 2 of those vendors on site for interviews a month ago, and we come to you tonight with the recommendation. And I will turn it over to Kim Boland to talk about our process and what we are recommending tonight. And Elena has a handout for everybody, so you can follow along.
Yeah, we went old school tonight with handouts, so. Thanks, Susan. Once you get your handouts, I'll start.
Thank you.
Okay, ready? So the second part of the first page basically outlines what Susan already started with. It kind of shows you our process the way through, so you can become familiar again with what we've done. So back in February, we released the RFP and reached out to several vendors. As Susan said, we received 3 proposals. And I'm going to review that proposal process with you in a second, and also the interview process. And here we are tonight at the last one in the process line, and for your approval for Susan to sign the contract. So on the second page, well, actually, you have double-sided because Elena was good and saved some trees, unlike myself over here. But on the third slide, you'll see the teams list. And I just want to say, I think the best part of this whole project so far is our teamwork on this. We took a lesson from the past, and we put together a team of about 21 staff members from all over the system, different levels of jobs, and they were involved actually in the interview process and the selection process. And you'll notice next to some people's names, there's a little asterisk, which indicates that they were also involved in helping narrow down, review the proposals and narrow down to the 2 finalists for the interviews. And mostly those people consist of senior staff and managers, but all these people did such a great job. It was, I think, a wonderful experience. And I have to shout out to my great crew over in the corner, Tanya and Nate. They did a ton of work on this as well, so kudos to them for everything, and thank you. Okay, so the proposal review, just to let you know how we did the scoring on the proposals with that group. We assigned 15% value to qualifications and experience, 35% to the approach and their plan to perform the service, and 40% to the capabilities and functionalities, since that has been something we've struggled with over the last 3 years that we really need to get right, and 10% to the cost. Any questions about that? Because on the next one, you'll see, if I can flip my page, you'll see the overview proposal rating summary. So what happened is everybody on the proposal review team had a worksheet that they filled out, and everybody did it independently, and then I compiled all the results, and then we came together to review what the total scores were. And as you can see under the rating summary, Clarivate Innovative ranked the highest on their proposal at 83%. And Cersei Dynex ranked second at 69%, which left Bywater Koha at 49%, which is why they were not interviewed. We selected the top 2. So I'll pause there. Any questions about the proposal or proposal review process?
From the cost perspective, because I know we're seeing just the costs from the one, I'm assuming with Cersei, I guess it's weighted a little bit higher. Were their costs a little bit less, or is it
Honestly,
pretty comparable?
They were pretty comparable.
Okay.
Koha was, I think, if I'm remembering, somebody might have a better, because I've kind of blocked Koha out of my mind right now, but I think they were pretty comparable. They were less, I think, but not by much. I think, the other 2 companies, I mean, it's Wise. They were going to have an opportunity to migrate someone off of Wise, and they were super competitive on their pricing. So it all ended up pretty comparable.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So just a few bullet points to emphasize some of the things why our group ended up selecting and why we're recommending Innovative. And the product that they are recommending for us to use is called Polaris. That's the actual ILS system. So now it's WISE, and OCLC is WISE. So Innovative has the Polaris product. So that is what we're recommending to you all. And you can see here, we kind of just compiled, a bunch of us kind of looked through to see what the highlights were, what really stood out. The intuitive and better workflows for us, which we've really struggled with, especially in cataloging and acquisitions and circulation. That has been a tremendous hassle over the last several years, so that rose to the top for people. The emphasis on the patron experience. Everything is web-based, which we do not have now, so we have a lot more capabilities in that regard. The company and their responsiveness, and I think one of the biggest things we noted was just the difference between Cersei and Innovative when we asked a question. The timing, they got back to us, and that's also something we've struggled with over the years with our current vendor. So their interview was quite exceptional compared to Cersei as well. So I think that made an impression on the team. The functionality, again, and all the variety of functionality from the patron experience right through the technical services piece, and the fact that they're an industry leader. And I think that was a big deal. Tanya and I were just looking, right now I believe they have about 2,600 public library clients. So that says something, and I will talk about that a little later, but I know we want to pause for a second because Susan, would you like to move on to talking about special collections?
Well, I guess I'd like to give Kurt an opportunity to talk about his impression of the product because, as you know, we had multiple reasons why we were looking for another option for us, but one of the top reasons was improved functionality for our genealogy and special collections patrons here locally and across the globe. So Kurt, would you like to share your thoughts, please?
Sure, I'd be happy to. I can do it from here, I can do it up next to Kim, whichever your preference is. I'll just do it from here. As Kim articulated, it really was a really good experience that brought people from across the system together. With special collections, I don't say this lightly, nor do I say it frivolously. In a way, as special collection goes, so goes the rest of the library in a couple of really key factors. I feel really good about this particular company because they emphasize patron experience and they emphasize discoverability. With special collections, it's great if you have best-in-class genealogy center. It's great if you have this one-of-a-kind, incomparable Lincoln collection. But if our patrons can't find the materials, it really doesn't mean a whole lot at the user experience level. As Kim has articulated, we have struggled in the last 3 years with patron experience and with discoverability. I'm very confident that this system will be a huge step forward in discoverability. So in having basic foundational metadata that catalogers have been using for generations actually appear as meaningful search results when our patrons execute searches. That is huge. That's been missing for 2 or 3 years. The fact that this company does listen to us, and I think in all the positive ways going forward after we get an ILS that's operational, that returns some of those foundational expectations of library catalogs, they will walk with us in doing some what I call blue skying. How can we integrate apps that are available on the market today that are meaningful in the library world for library patrons? How can we integrate those into our online experience? How can we integrate that into our experience? I feel really comfortable that they will be able to do that. So the fact that it will return missing foundational elements, simple things like our patrons being able to create a list that has call numbers on it, simple things like our processing staff being able to print labels efficiently for materials. And key in all of it, though, is discoverability for our patrons. Our patrons will again be able to discover more fully and more robustly these awesome collections that are in the Allen County Public Library. And not just special collections. I think in children's and popular fiction, this will be an enhanced discovery experience. And I think it will be dramatic in all areas, but certainly in special collections, it will be extremely dramatic.
Okay, last 2 points. I just started to mention before Kurt that just to draw to your attention a few of their customers, which are kind of impressive, and thought you would be interested in that. So I pulled this slide under a few of their customers, and also wanted to add that 2 of their more recent partners, New York Public Library, which we know is very well known in the United States and a very large system, they just launched what's called the Vega Discovery Layer, which is basically what our patrons will see. So I'm excited about that. And Miami-Dade is also a customer of theirs. So I think we're in good hands from that respect. And the last thing I just wanted to touch on, because I know Susan was wonderful in giving you the quotation here on the back of the handout that was in your packet, but there are some changes to that, so I wanted to just like get down to what we actually are going to contract for. And so you can see in the last part under costs that we are entering into a 5-year contract. And that 5-year contract runs $141,442 each year. So we will not have an uplift in our charges until year 6. And at that time, we can renegotiate too, because the uplift usually would be 3 to 5%. To see what our savings would be between a 3 and a 5-year contract, I did that exercise for Dave. It's about a little over $21,000, which, it's a savings, and that was at the 5%. But of course, when we expire at the end of year 5, we would negotiate for the 3%. We would, try to get the best cost that we can. And we have some implementation fees in here that I've outlined on the spreadsheet, and estimated travel expenses, because they'll be on site quite a few times. And I can't remember I think the last count I did, I think they're like on site 7 or 8 times during the whole process of migration over the next several months. So that's estimated cost. And then the only other fee, we are contracting the 31,858 for authorities cleanup, which that's not my area of expertise, but I know that Kurt and Christine, I think that would be valuable, and so we are going to contract for that. So you can see the first year total cost is $282,375, which I'm happy to report is under budget. We budgeted $300,000, and then you can see what the cost for years 2 through 5 will be moving forward.
Couple of questions.
Yes.
I have some, but does anyone have questions? With the New York Public Library and Dade in Florida, do we have any concern that they may be outselling their capability in delivery?
It's a great question, and one that we've asked them about their capability. I mean, they're a significantly sized company. I'm not concerned about it. They've already assigned us our project manager. And I personally have worked with the company for many years, and it's grown because Innovative and Polaris used to be separate ILSs. Then Innovative bought Polaris, so then they grew. And then this Clarivate then bought the two of them. So the company is continually growing and improving. So I don't have any concerns with that.
Second question, if we did an autopsy of our current system, because I can remember 3 years ago or whenever it was presented to us, we were full of vinegar and ready to go, and we're going to be a beta site. What lessons were learned as to why it didn't function, and were they applied to the decision here?
Yeah, that's also a very good question, because when we entered into the previous contract with OCLC, that was an undeveloped product. And Nate worked very hard on helping develop that product, and I think our team did everything they could to try to make it as good as it could be. Unfortunately, because the company, OCLC, we were helping them develop it. The difference is Innovative with the Polaris product, they're an established company with a product that's been around for years and years and years, used by many people. So we don't have to develop anything. Now, we can partner with them to make suggestions for improvements and modifications, which I am sure we will do, but we have an out-of-the-box product. So, and if you recall, the implementation, and Nate, you can chime in, but our implementation was quite a lengthy process with WISE, and it went on forever. We'll be able to roll this out by October, and I have no doubt that it will get done. So that's the difference. That was a product that did not really exist back when we signed with OCLC. This is a fully developed product, and that's the lesson that we learned, that we wanted something like Susan says, we don't really want to build an ILS. We just want a really good one that functions already.
Want to plug it in and play.
Make it work.
I would add another lesson is that this process to come to this decision and recommendation had much increased transparency and much increased collaboration among the entire system.
Yeah, yeah, and that was a huge lesson learned.
Thank you. Any further questions of Kim?
I did have a question. Can you give an idea, what is the cost difference now annually? I understand there's going to be a
Well, what we're
startup cost.
What we're paying to WISE?
Yes.
So our last subscription, which will run out in November of 2003, which is why we're on this timeline. Currently, this past year, we paid $200,869.57.
That was our annual.
That was
The
it,
annual
yeah.
amount.
So
Okay.
it's less than that.
Okay.
From a reporting perspective, I know that when we were adding items to the system and taking them away, I know we had, that's integrated into the ILS system, right? Or is that a separate?
Reporting.
Yeah.
Yep, we will, and I think our reporting options will be stronger as
Okay.
well. I think they'll be really good for our managers to get information out and to be able to share
And
them.
more intuitive.
Yeah, very, more intuitive, yeah, definitely.
Because I know as a board, you give us the report in our pack every month as to why items were removed from the system and, you know, which ones were added and that reason as well. I just want to make sure that we're going to be able to stay consistent in that
Yeah.
approach.
Definitely. We might even be able to give you more information once we get
Okay.
into it.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
Also, I have
Yes,
a
ma'am.
question. As we grow and as we have grown, and I've been a member of the library for a long time, and I'm excited how it's growing. This particular company will be able to take us to the next level also, correct?
I'm confident in that. I mean, that's why we selected them. I mean, and I think in the marketplace, I think they are by far, for public libraries, the strongest vendor in the market
They're
right now.
very excited
And-
to work with us. They
yeah.
know what they're getting with us. It's a feather in their cap, quite honestly.
And they
Yeah.
want to be
They wanna be
innovative.
there.
They want to do stuff. I mean, they have to compete with the other ones, so, and they show a lot of interest in doing that.
Well, it's
So-
a way that they can show what they have to offer to work with us too.
Mhm.
Which for other times, if they were going to go with other libraries also, so that's good. Good workmanship.
And they do a lot of innovative partnerships privately, on separate contract with like, you know, New York Public was a partner. They do a lot of that specialty stuff to keep innovative and to bring new ideas for all of their customers. So they're invested in taking something they learned from this customer and being able to apply it for everyone, which is nice.
They also have, I'm sorry.
So I was going to say that the New York Library is just magnificent, and if they can work with that, they certainly can work with.
And you can go search their website now. With Tanya, you and I were doing that yesterday to see what our new interface of the catalog will look like.
They also have a very robust users group that has an annual conference where customers from around the world meet for a few days just to learn the latest tips and tricks, and learn about new developments and network and share ideas. And Nate and Kim will be providing that. We have permission to enter into this contract. We do have plans for Nate and Kim to attend that next month in Phoenix.
Sounds good.
Just to add one more comment. I've had the opportunity to go around and really get more of a feel from various ACPL personnel throughout branches, internal. And I've heard nothing but praise and this system versus where we were before, again, we were developing, and this is tried and true. It's web-based, and everything I've heard from the 8 or 9 people I've spoke with, there's nothing but positives. And also the fact that I'm proud that the team that was put together this time to review is more open, wide, wide experience as opposed to a more closed set that we had before. And I think they've done a great job.
Thank you. I have to give a shout out to our events team at Access Fort Wayne because they videoed our vendor presentations, which was not a simple task at all. There was complexity to it, and they packaged it together, and we were able to send that out to the entire staff. So everyone on staff had an opportunity to see these vendor presentations and offer their input.
Will we need to do any additional services or provide you with any additional tools? Like, will there need to be a broadband expansion, or will our software and services handle it all? Additional staff training, anything like that, that we're not anticipating in this cost?
I'm not aware of any. I will look to Kim to confirm that.
No major technology costs in addition to that. One extra thing, because we did come in under budget, we are contracting with a data extraction expert because one of the biggest challenges that we know is getting the data out of WISE into our new system. So that's the extra expense, and that was in your original packet at $95.70, and Nate has managed to get us that down to $79.50, I think. So we're even less on that. So, but that I think is a benefit, but that's the extra bonus. But for coming in under budget, I think it's well worth it. But nothing, with broadband, no hardware, nothing like that. Anything that we're doing that is for a variety of reasons, not just because of this.
For training, we will be asking you in the coming months for permission to close for a day, most likely in mid to late October, to prepare for launch, and that would be in lieu of our typical staff training day.
And what would you see with this affirmation support today? What would you see an implementation timeline?
I'm going to turn that back over to Kim. She's the timeline.
Well, if you give me permission, I'm going to start tomorrow. And I have 3 timelines that I've drawn out that I will then share with the vendor. They have a general one in what they've given us, but I will meet with them next week first thing and loop Nate in, of course. He'll be helping manage this, probably be the lead of this a good chunk of the time. And we will jump in so we are ready to launch in the October timeframe that Susan mentioned. So we'll be going forward pretty quickly.
Last question for me then is, since it's we talked about it would be research friendly for patrons, is it going to be a user friendly? How much mindset change will be there for patrons to use?
Well, I'm probably not the best one to answer this. I could defer to my colleagues over there. I feel like it's going to be a pretty easy and positive thing because it won't be so much of a struggle to find something. I mean, the interface, will look different, but the overall concept, and as they improve and improve, I think it'll just become easier and easier. But would you agree that that's the case?
Yeah, there are some quality of life options with this new system that I think our patrons are really going to like, and how they can access their account with the ability to have, if you enter an incorrect search term, it can give you suggestions for did you mean this? Stuff that will just make it simpler and more intuitive to use.
I guess the thing I was looking for is if we would need to do would we need to have a staff person available to walk patrons through?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that I think you can expect for many of our locations, like that's going to be a basic expectation of our staff to know the system and be able to coach and help our patrons utilize it.
And because this is a well-established system, a lot of those tools already exist. Unlike our current vendor, where we were literally the first in the country, we were building that plane. This plane's been flying for a long time. So there are all kinds of marketing and tutorial items already in place that we can just customize with our logo and have out for the public.
Thank you.
How are we preparing our patrons for this launch?
Well, Aja's genius over there will take care of that, but Aja will be integrated quite heavily into this whole process. So as we go through the training with the staff that we set points where we will do marketing, we'll start to do marketing and get people prepared, and I feel like we really need to do that. I think people will be excited.
I think they'll be relieved,
Yeah,
quite frankly.
maybe relieved,
I do.
yeah.
Well, anything new, though, change
Yeah,
does cause agita, as my
Yeah, it
Italian
does.
friends say. And we ran through a lot of that heartburn last time.
Yep.
I
And
don't
don't-
think we could over-communicate.
No, I agree, and I know Aja does as well. And don't worry, Marty, the mobile app will be awesome as well.
I wrote it down right there.
I'm sorry I didn't see your name here, Marty, as one of the testers.
I am ready to make the motion, then.
Let's move it along.
Yes.
Let's hear the motion, kid.
I would like to move that we authorize the executive director to enter into a contract for integrated library system services.
Second.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by aye.
Aye.
And opposed by nay. Okay, Susan.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Kim. We have some proposals for revision to our facility and meeting room policy, along with our schedule and fines and fees. And I will ask Leanne, she was just here. Did she sneak out? Yes, I would. Because I can give an overview, but if you have some specific questions, she would be your subject matter expert to answer them. So you have in your packet our current policy plus our proposed changes. And we did vet this with Pete and our legal team. The memo that I provided is an overview of the various changes. So I'll go through the overview and then we can dig into some of the specifics. After consultation with our management team and legal review, edits are proposed for the ACPL facilities and meeting room policy and the schedule of fines and fees. So these edits include separating the facilities and meeting room policy from internal operating procedures. The policy as it exists right now is many, many pages long, and what we are recommending is to have a shorter board-approved facility and meeting room policy, and then take some of the nitty-gritty things about how we prefer you not bring in red punch, we prefer you not bring in very pungent foods.
No glitter.
No glitter, yes.
That's the policy of every venue, no glitter.
And separate that from board-approved
Sorry, Sharon.
policy, you're not wrong, and put it in our internal operations. We have changed some updated language to change main branch to main library, just as our naming mechanism. We have relocated the meeting room fees from the meeting room policy document to another board-approved document, the schedule of fines and fees, to more closely align with the purpose of each document. And when I talk about fees, the majority, I'm gonna look to, I saw Leanne walk in.
She's up there.
There she is. Would you say the majority of room bookings are 100% free?
For the most part, yes.
Yes. Right. But for the ones that are charged fees because of their particular category of organization, we are asking for an increase of those service rates to more closely align to comparable rates. And that is something that Leanne really keeps her finger on the pulse of the going rates out there. She is in groups like the Downtown Development District where they're sharing that information amongst each other. So we're looking for something that is still, quite frankly, I think the best deal in town, but a bit more in line with what else is going on out there, and also able to help us recover our costs more. So we are asking for security officer fees to go from $25 an hour to $50 an hour. And Leanne, do you want to share when a group would bring in a security officer? Because that's not regular standing operating procedure, but sometimes it's needed.
I would love to.
Yeah.
Alcohol service at the library, it's required external service, whether it be Fort Wayne PD or the Sheriff's County. Security could be required for something festival outside, Rock the Plaza, large-scale volume events. It's case-by-case basis. If there is priceless artifacts involved, delegations bringing in things, they will have security as well, but it is not required. So I monitor it on a case by case.
Thank you. Room setup fees, we are requesting an increase from $20 an hour to $25 an hour. Music recital fees, it seems like every weekend there's a recital in here. Is that fair to say? There's a lot.
The theater is a hot recital spot in town, and it is a gem, and the increase was well received. I've talked to over 10 music teachers, and they just applaud the increase, and they just love to use the space.
So that's a $75 flat fee currently to $125 flat fee. And housekeeping fees from $20 an hour to $25 an hour. Another suggestion we are making is a cancellation policy. So cancellations made less than 24 hours before a reservation here at the main library would be subject to a rebooking fee of $50. This is not applicable to those Class A reservations that pay nothing to begin with. These are for our private groups, groups that charge admission who are paying to use the room. Is there anything else about the meeting room policy that I'm forgetting, Leanne, that we should mention?
You have covered and absorbed everything.
Okay.
I do have a question. What determines the free from the paid patron?
We have 3 classifications with definitions that are included. We have a Class A, B, and C, and it depends on if a non-for-profit is actually charging admission. So they would not get our space for free if they're profiting or accepting, it's fundraising, commercial use. That is when I start hourly rates, and I'll work with the group.
And what about the organization itself? An organization that talks about growing trees versus one that talks about chopping down trees?
The library is for everybody. I have not turned away any group. It just depends on their event structure and program, whether I would charge. But for the most part, I see a large spectrum of events, and usually the charge is free. We love to have our community partners use our library.
And the mission of the group that is looking to rent the facility or to use the facility, how do you factor in who will be allowed and who will not, or is everybody allowed?
Everybody is allowed to use the library. The classifications come into play if it falls outside of our mission and if the event is charging, if there are raffles, if there's a festival component, then there is going to be a rate applied to the event. So say somebody wants to come in and use the meeting room to sell Mary Kay, I'm going to charge them to use it. It's not a learning type workshop or whatnot, but they're more than welcome to use their local library for their entrepreneurial purposes.
So with the proposed policy, that first paragraph gets into what groups can use the library. Specifically, the library does not discriminate in making its premises available for use on the basis of age, race, sex, ethnicity, color, et cetera, et cetera. And this is language that we did vet with Pete and his team.
I get that, but what about mission, the purpose of the organization?
They hate groups or?
Yeah.
Well, we also have language here, permission for use of library facilities in no way implies ACPL's endorsement of the goals and activities of any individual or organization. Does that help answer the question?
No.
And we also say that a group's use, it's almost more, in my opinion, and Pete, as the lawyer, can chime in, it's more about the activity that's happening in the room versus the mission of the group, because we do have language here, public use of library facilities shall not interfere with normal library functions.
Yeah, the way it was presented to me, with the exception of the non-discrimination element to it, it was a function of how the group would use the library. So, for example, it might be a for-profit group, but if they were using it for educational purposes and they were not charging an admission fee, then they could use it for free. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
I mean, I guess I'm just thinking from an operational standpoint our staff would be tasked with that filtering process. And from that standpoint, that if there's but what I'm hearing you saying is we're pretty much open for all. From that standpoint, so,
We really are.
yeah.
I guess the question that I would have is, I'm trying to think if I am aware or was, that we allow alcohol, do we ask for insurance certificates, to name us on those? Okay.
We do.
All that was actually in place in a different format, but those requirements for caterers and service of alcoholic beverages, that's been in place since this library opened.
So if I wanted to have a wedding reception downstairs, serve booze, how would that be assessed?
We've actually had a wedding reception, although I don't know if there was alcohol here.
There was not, but if there's alcohol service, alcohol cannot be served during library hours, first and foremost.
I see.
So I've had receptions that start at 6:01 on Friday because we close at 6 o'clock. And they've had our Storyscape ribbon cutting, had alcohol service in the gallery. And then I have an approved alcohol vendor, and we have all the permits in place, and we have a certificate of insurance on file.
Thank you. Any further questions? Thanks. Susan?
And a few more items that are kind of cleanup language regarding the schedule of fines and fees. So we are including the meeting room fines and fees as part of that overall schedule of fines and fees. We are removing interlibrary loan fines to align with going fine-free back in December 2022. But we are including Access Fort Wayne equipment fines. So that's always been treated a little differently than typical library materials. Access Fort Wayne does lend some high-value items such as camcorders. I'm looking over at Norm and he is nodding, yes. And we want to encourage timely return of those items, so we are wanting to continue overdue fines for those items. It's $1 per item per day, which is still, I think, very reasonable, up to a maximum of $5 per item. And Norma team have said that throughout the years, that small fine is good motivation for those large, expensive pieces of electronics to come back in a timely manner so other people can use them. So what we are asking for tonight would be approval to, for the revisions for the facility and meeting room policy, as well as the changes to the schedule of fines and fees. I'm happy to answer any other questions.
May I have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Marty? Okay. All those in favor, please signify by aye.
Aye.
And opposed by nay. Okay?
Thank you. Ready for my executive director report?
We're ready for
Okay.
it.
It is National Library Week, so we are having our board meeting during National Library Week. Very exciting. We've been celebrating all week. We've had multiple events throughout the week, including Book Bowl Trivia Contest. That was on Sunday, and we actually had a tie and had to go to sudden death, so it was quite dramatic at the end. But we had a team come out on top. On Tuesday was National Library Workers' Day, and to show our appreciation to our staff, we sent out treat bags. We had visits from therapy dogs throughout the system, which was very popular, and we also gave our staff the opportunity to take a free professional headshot. And last night, we had our flagship event for the week, sponsored by the Friends of the Library, our Pantsuit Politics podcast and author visit. We had about 140 people in the theater and several tuning in online, and it was very, very well received. We had people travel from Michigan and Ohio and all across Indiana to come to the program. So we were very pleased. And we want to thank the Friends of the Library for their support of all the National Library Week activities. So I put this report together a few days in advance, and often I get late-breaking news. So I put in the report, more than 2,000 tax returns were filed at an ACPL location thanks to our partnership with AARP tax help volunteers. I was a little low because it was actually 2,700. So a very robust tax season. And we are very grateful for our dedicated tax help volunteers. Some have been coming here for many, many years. And we were able to have it at 8 locations throughout the system this year. As part of our continuing diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts, we are translating numerous ACPL publicity and instructional flyers into Spanish and Burmese with the assistance of Luna translation. And this is something that sometimes it's easier said than done because we have a lot of print collateral. And particularly with the Burmese language, it's not always a simple process to get a translation. But we are steadily working toward it. And we got some excellent feedback a few days ago from Georgetown. The assistant branch manager there recently shared that she was able to give a family who had just immigrated new patron information in Burmese, and they were absolutely thrilled and felt so welcomed. So that's what it's all about. Yeah. Next month, you will have a special appearance from Mara Honeywell. I know you always love to hear from her, our youth services manager. She'll be talking about Jump Spark, which is the month-long precursor in May to the summer learning program. And May is really all about those school visits. Our librarians are hitting the road all summer long, all May long, visiting schools to promote the program. We also had the opportunity with a vacant floater librarian position to take a look at that and evaluate that vacancy against what our current needs are. So we were able to repurpose it to another system-wide librarian kind of role, but in this case, this will be focused on maker services. So as you know, we have the amazing Maker Lab here at the main library. We have a Maker Lab at Georgetown. We are evolving this position into someone who will be coordinating maker programming throughout the system, even to those libraries who don't have a dedicated maker space now, but we can bring elements in to have pop-up maker programs, some smaller scale maker labs. So we are in the process of interviewing candidates for that now and are really excited about what that could look like. And a few other things that didn't make the report, and then I'll be happy to answer questions. I did want to make a reminder that I know you love to go out on the road for our board meetings, and next month we will be at the Little Turtle branch, so they are excited to host us. You will see that Lorraine Bain, our HR director, isn't here today, and that's because she, along with our security manager, Shannon Aker, are at the Columbus Public Library in Ohio at a national conference on public library safety. So they're there for the next 2 days and looking forward to hearing about what they learn. Another legislation we have been watching all season long in Indy is what was Senate Bill 12, language about harmful material to minors and the potential for library staff to be charged with criminal charges for disseminating harmful material to minors. The session ends either today or tomorrow. They're wrapping up in Indy. And I asked the Indiana Library Federation for an update as to where we were on any of this language. And as of now, it appears that public libraries will not be impacted by any of this language. They have added some language regarding the requirement of a review process and a parental complaint process for school libraries. But as of an hour ago, when I talked to the Indiana Library Federation, the language is only focused on school libraries. I wanted to point out a few highlights from our quarterly managers report, which you received. You also received our quarterly collection management report. We had talked a few months ago about moving this report to a quarterly fashion, so you've got that this time. In the quarterly managers report, I wanted to mention something that happened at the Aboit Library this quarter. It's on the first page of the report. The Aboit branch and staff learned in February that a soon-to-be-published picture book author, Lois Nelson Smith, had been working on her book in their study room. So the staff there had the pleasure of meeting her and her illustrator and seeing the finished product. And just by happy accident, Aja and I were in the Great Hall earlier this week working with a reporter from Wayne. And this author, Lois Nelson Smith, happened to be here, saw that we were talking to a reporter, walked up and wanted to let us know and the reporter know how grateful she was for our space, that she wrote her book in our library and just felt like it was a very inspiring and affirming space to do that, and was singing our praises. So it was really lovely, and I'm sure that we will be having her for a book signing at some point. We also have, and I'd sent this out in your packet, our 2022 Community Impact Report. So this is what we put together after we finalized the stats in the annual report. And Aja sent this out to the media along with the press release earlier in the week, and we got a lot of coverage about it, but it shares some of the highlights from our annual report, such as in 2022, over 4 million items were borrowed, and we had 1.4 library visits. So all that good stuff showing that our numbers are ticking back up.
I might say that the quality of our communications has increased geometrically since you're here. Good job.
She's doing an excellent job. And that's all I have. That was a lot.
Questions?
Questions?
Comments? Okay, is there any new business that should come before the board? How about public, no public comment? How about over the internet? Anybody?
There is one comment, Rebecca Wolf said, much more transparency in selecting this ILS.
With a thumbs up. Okay, well,
Yeah,
on
is it a
that,
question or a comment, right? Compliment, yes.
okay, hearing and seeing no more business, I'll entertain a motion, we adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Thank you. Let me remind you, we have an executive session following this.
Thank you. He's out. Where are you going? Where are you going? Third right now.
Okay, good, no problem.